Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and we're going to be talking about Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, and Blake Martinez on today's show. But the big-time breaking news that has just come across, Hunter Renfrow is headed to the IR. He's out the next 4 weeks at least. We just did a video literally like 30, 45 minutes ago on Darren Waller headed to the IR and Blake Martinez retiring. So, new video here with new information out. Renfrow now, he's been dealing with this oblique injury. And I don't know if the Raiders are tanking. I don't know if McDaniels is just trying to save his players. And they might just be saying, you know what, this year has already been a little bit of a wash, and we got to look forward to the future. Because you can be angry at the lack thereof production by Renfrow this season. You can be angry at the lack thereof production by Darren Waller. They're going to be pieces, or at least you're hoping that they're going to be pieces for this Raiders rebuild going forward. Now, Renfrow's missed multiple games this season. He missed games early on with the concussion, and now he's dealing with the oblique. He just hasn't been a good fit whatsoever in this McDaniels offense, which is just shocking to me. If there was going to be one player where I would have been able to put my hat on and saying this guy will benefit in McDaniels' system. I mean, you go back, you look at a lot of these really solid slot wide receivers, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, hell, Danny Amendola. You thought Renfrow was going to be able to be that guy. 21 catches, 192 yards, no touchdowns, and it's not been a good fit for Renfrow whatsoever. So now you're 2-6. You got to figure out a way to get things going, or is the season over? Do you think the Raiders are tanking this season? Y for yes, or you can type N for no. And we're going to make this the pinned comment on today's show. So please, you're about to get hit with a YouTube ad break. Y for yes, N for no. Are the Raiders tanking? My answer is I don't freaking know what this coaching staff is doing. Should they tank? No, I am never team tank, especially when you're trying to charge the amount of prices that the Raiders are charging for tickets. On the other hand, you are 2-6. If the season were to end today, you would have the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft. If you're telling me right now the Raiders finish the year with number 3 overall, I would be happy because you're either going to get Will Anderson, C.J. Stroud, or Bryce Young. I'm hoping it's one of the 2 quarterbacks. That way you can hopefully get out of this purgatory area that the Raiders have been in for so long. But then there's that part of me, there's like that competitive nature where I know what I do for a living. I come into work every single day, and the thought that people are making millions of dollars to tank after you just made the playoffs last season, that's laughable to me. So here's what Adam Schefter had to say, and one more. This was shortly after we did the video on Darren Waller to IR. Raiders are also placing wide receiver Hunter Renfrow on injury reserve due to his oblique injury per source. So on the same day, both Renfrow and Waller both are being placed on IR, meaning they are out at least the next 4 games. So what does that mean necessarily for the Raiders? You don't have somebody who you thought could potentially get 100 catches this year in Renfrow. You're not going to have somebody who you're hoping could be a big-time stalwart in this offense and a tight end-friendly offense in Darren Waller. Now it's time for other players to step up. We can sit up here and point the finger at Derek Carr for not being a good fit in Josh McDaniels' system, which, by all accounts, he has not been a good fit. It is time for other players to step up. Now, our job here at Chat Sports on the Raiders Report is when news happens, we break it down. Anybody can sit up in front of a screen and say, Darren Waller to IR, Hunter Renfrow to IR, Blake Martinez is retiring. But the reason why you should hit that subscribe button is for that extra analysis, because without Renfrow, wide receivers that you're looking at and you're hoping that can step up, I mean, it's going to be Keelan Cole and DJ Turner. Those are going to be your top 2 receivers in the slot. Davante Adams, he's been good. He's dropped some pretty clutch passes, though. Mack Hollins needs to step it up. And then from your tight end standpoint, Moraeu is an opportunity to make some money, and I'm happy for Foster. He's a good young player. He's going to be a free agent in the offseason, and for a dude like Foster, he has a real chance to turn his career around if he's able to make the most of these next 4 weeks, and Renfrow is somebody that I believe can come back sooner rather than later. In terms of Darren Waller, I'm not holding my breath because it actually wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't play another game this season because of all the injuries that he's had to that hammy, to the SI joint since last season. Now, you guys, this week, it's a weird week. It's going to be an ugly football game. Jugs and I are obviously going to be live doing our watch party. You got the 3-5-1 Colts led by Jeff Saturday going up against the 2-6 Raiders. Both teams have been hard to watch. You know, though, it makes the game a little easier to watch when you got some extra money in your pocket. And if you want to bet on this game, all you got to do is go to chatsports.com/Raiders and make sure that you use promo code Raiders125. That gets you 125% deposit bonus, which means if you put down $100 and you're a first-time user with BetUS, you're actually going to get $125 for free to bet with. It's the best deal on the internet, and I like the idea that I can lose a bet or two because I have that extra 125%. The Raiders have been a frustrating team. But hey, I like betting on sports. You can also bet on other sports as well. It doesn't just have to be Raiders or NFL. So when you look at some of these other wide receivers in the room, Davante, now's your time to really, really step it up. Because if I'm McDaniels and I know that I don't have Renfrow or Waller, if Davante Adams doesn't get 12 targets a game over the next 4 weeks, you might as well just get a giant Sharpie and put an L on McDaniels' forehead because he's already a loser, but now you just got to make it permanent. Then you got Mack Hollins, 28 catches, 398 yards, 2 touchdowns. He has shown in spurts that he can show up when it matters the most. He can be a deep threat. But if Derek doesn't look at Mack Hollins' way on deep routes, then maybe it doesn't really matter. McDaniels, scheme better. Keelan Cole was a receiver that I liked. The Raiders didn't keep him on their 53-man roster. He ended up making it back to the practice squad. I've said before, not a great athlete, but he is a good route runner. Because he can run routes, I am anticipating him to take as that next step in really being the dude that replaces Renfrow. Yeah, you could see DJ Turner. He's probably going to get some more work as your punt returner because Renfrow at times last week was running in that role. But now you got 2 players that you did not anticipate getting much run, and they're going to get work. Not only is Foster Moraeu going to get extra work here for the Silver and Black, so is Jesper Horsted. Horsted has been working in already here and there. But to really say that you don't have these 4 guys in the position that you're in, 4 games under 500, it's definitely frustrating. So you guys be the judge here. I want you to grade Derek Carr's receiving targets without Renfrow or Waller. So we just went through the wide receivers, the tight ends, A, B, C, D, or F. How would you grade Derek Carr's receiving core without those players? Now, Schefter said this, and so due to various injuries, the Raiders now will have their big 4, Derek Carr, Davante Adams, Hunter Renfrow, and Darren Waller, on the field together this season for a grand total of 43 plays. It's been a disaster. DC's been getting a lot of blame, no doubt about it. But when you think about how much money the Raiders spent on these 4 players in the offseason, Derek Carr, he gave him a $121.5 million contract. Yes, he can get out of it. Davante Adams, $140. Waller, $51. Renfrow, you're looking at $344.5 million that has only played together 43 times this season. That is what I like to call a really, really big headache for this team. And I've talked about this on Twitter and Instagram, so if you haven't already given me a follow, hit me up on Twitter at MitchellRens365. Now, the video that we put out about an hour ago was the headliner was Darren Waller to IR with that hamstring injury, and he hasn't really played since Week 5 against Kansas City in a game that he really only played 15 snaps in. He missed 6 games last year with that SI joint injury, and the SI joint lingered. The hammy injury lingered. We've been talking about whether or not he's going to be able to play hell in July, August. And when he went out there this season, even when he was on the field, he didn't look good. Look at that Tennessee Titans game. I'm pretty sure Darren Waller cost the Raiders in a single game 17 points. That's hard to do. 2 drop touchdowns, really bad drop first down in that Titans game, and he just has not looked like that dynamic tight end that just made a brand new deal of 3 years, $51 million, the highest paid tight end in the NFL. So now you got to have that next man up mentality. Foster, time to step up. He has looked good this season. God forbid he gets hurt. Then the Raiders got to go out and you got to try to find somebody else on the free agent market. If you thought that Waller and Renfrow putting on or getting placed on the IR was bad enough, I did talk about this on my video earlier. Blake Martinez, I was told that the reason why he missed practice yesterday was to talk to family because he was contemplating retiring. Well, now it's official. Blake Martinez, kind of been the one solid player for the Raiders at linebacker. Was he great this season? No. He was coming off an ACL injury. He was that leader, though, of the defense in Patrick Graham's system. So now you don't have Blake Martinez anymore. Divine Diablo, he's on IR with a forearm injury. Denzel Perriman clearly is not a good fit in Patrick Graham's system. Jayon Brown last week was a healthy scratch. So now it's time for UDFA's Darian Butler and Luke Masterson to get the shot. Butler really struggled in IR, or really struggled in the preseason this past year, especially trying to cover. Luke Masterson was a player that I anticipated him trying to take that next step, even with the news of Jonathan Abram being out, because they are hoping he can be like that Tanner Muse role, if you will. But with 2 UDFAs, it's not looking good. If you own Jonathan Taylor in a fantasy league, if I'm Jeff Saturday, I let Jonathan Taylor run the football 40 times this week against the Raiders, who have a abysmal defensive line, maybe the worst in the NFL. Now you're going to start 2 UDFA linebackers, or maybe you go to a guy that you benched in Jayon Brown, or maybe you go with Denzel Perriman. Obviously, Perriman's going to get the start. Jonathan Abram could at least kind of stop the run. If I'm the Colts, I'm telling you right now, I'm running the football 40 times with Jonathan Taylor. Now, we are getting ready to wrap up today's show, but remember, we always keep you guys up to date on social media. I'm at MitchellRens365, also over on Locals, RaidersReport.locals.com. And we are going to be live tonight for Thursday Night Football, so please join Jeremy Chuggs and I. This season has been very, very difficult to stomach, but I just want you all to know, if you made it this far in the video, I know you're a real one, and I appreciate you guys. Even if the Raiders stink, Raider Nation is undefeated in terms of being the best fans in all of sports, and if you want that energy, you want that excitement, and if you want to stay up to date, hey, hit that subscribe button. We keep you up to date here on the Raiders Report.